Hello and welcome to the DrivingMaul show here at 8 p.m. on Monday evening. That's right, you can join us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter at 8 p.m. live every week, or you can catch the recordings as well on those places, as well as a podcast on just search for New Zealand Sport Radio for that. Also, don't forget, folks, that we've got the standoff show is back up and running now. The NRL season is back, and that's at 8 p.m. on Wednesdays. So you've got your rugby union and your rugby league covered here on New Zealand Sport Radio. And boy, oh boy, what a weekend we had, because the Drua got their first ever win, which is absolutely massive. Also, we saw Moana Pacifica get themselves up and running as well. Also, we had some pre-season game for the Super Rugby Opaki, which is having all sorts of issues at the moment, but we'll talk about all of that during the show, as well as look forward to the games coming up and also the Six Nations games that are coming up as well. And I say we, that's because, yes, it's not Paul talking for a solid hour all on his own this week. I have got Stephen Harris back. How are you doing, sir?
Very good, thank you, Paul. Been a very busy day, but as always, it's always a privilege and a pleasure to be on the TDM.
It is, and loving your Northland hoodie there that you're sporting for the show, showing your allegiance there with that one. And so, what was your weekend like? Did you catch all the Super Rugby action, or did you mention get out around the grounds? What was how did you get on this? How was your rugby this weekend?
Yeah, listen, I did catch most of the Super games, bar the the game that was being played in Perth, just a little bit late, obviously Perth Standard Time compared to New Zealand, so I really had to rely on the highlights, and it looked like a really good game. You'll probably tell us a little bit about it, but in terms of anything on the local scene, listen, there's a lot of pre-season games happening at the moment, especially here in the Auckland area, and luckily down at our local gym at Waitakere Stadium, you can just look out the window and pretty much watch the Waitakere seniors running around. They were playing East Coast Bays, team from North Harbour on the weekend, so yeah, it looked good. Fitness looked reasonably good, and some good tries, some good early season tries being run in by these guys hitting their pre-season straps.
Yeah, look, the club season is just kicking off. We've got training on Tuesday night for the Waihi, and so I'll be heading off down there tomorrow evening for a beer and to catch up with them. Looking at being their cameraman again this upcoming season. So I'm looking forward to that.
I was going to say, Paul, you're going for a beer, and then a training might break out.
No. Well, hey, I will not be taking my boots. Don't worry. I've just been in touch. Said, okay, is it fitness and touch? And he went, no, it's contact training at the moment. It's like, okay, then I will leave my boots at home. But if it had been touch, I would have been down there for a bit of a run around. But no, unfortunately, it sounds like they're pretty serious right from the off. They did start a little bit earlier last year. We did have some some touch and fitness training in January, but I guess the whole COVID thing means that hasn't happened this year, unfortunately. So, but yeah, looking forward to getting into that, and who knows, maybe I'll be seeing Wayne Smith down there as our assistant coach, which would be good to have a chat with him.
Exactly, pretty handy guy to have in the community.
Absolutely. So yeah, it was pretty tough going at the weekend, because as you say, we had that game that was on at midnight kickoff, but that meant we had 3 games back to back on Friday and Saturday. That is a lot of rugby to sit through, but great to have people in the live chat with us. Simon Hughes there, and also Ramathani as well, joining us both on YouTube and Facebook. So great to have you guys joining us live. But yeah, it's an awful long time to sit in front of the computer and watch that amount of rugby. I'll be honest, I did kind of switch off on some of the games, but not the first one, because we kicked off with Moana Pacifica versus the Crusaders. A lot of us going into this thinking, yep, 40 odd points win for the Crusaders, but Moana Pacifica really have done a lot of work since we saw them at Mount Smart in pre-season, haven't they? Their defence was much improved.
Oh, very much so, Paul. And I suppose for a lot of us, given that they were pretty well thumped by the Chiefs in a preseason game, and not the strongest Chiefs team either. A lot of people were mentioning that it was a B team or a C team, and it looked like they had a whole heap of work to do. But they really surprised us, and they came out and they defended like their lives depended on it in that first half, and that kept them in the game. We always wondered if it was probably going to be enough or it was going to take its toll, especially as it got deep into the second half. But boy, they really hung around like a bad smell.
Absolutely, and so it was. None of us ever expected them to win. Let's be blunt here, or even a losing bonus point. But to be within 11 points of the Crusaders was fantastic. Look, the Crusaders' first penalty was in the 49th minute. It was 8-0 in the penalty count at that point, which shows you that they weren't getting any favours out of the ref either in this one. Look, I'm not going to jump on referees. We need referees, folks, for the game to happen. I'm sure they were honest mistakes, but there were a couple there. I said that didn't go their way. But we've got to be aware here that the Crusaders had 6 debutants in this game, so it was very much a changed side. Simon Hughes saying some people on social media accused the Crusaders of match fixing. I don't think that was the case. I don't think this was a very inexperienced team, relatively speaking, for the Crusaders. Players who weren't used to playing with each other, and I think that told really. And I think we'll see pretty much all the New Zealand teams, except maybe the Highlanders. We'll get on to them later. Probably resting players coming into these games, which is going to make things a little bit easier for Moana Pacifica, which isn't necessarily a bad thing in their opening season.
Oh, listen, there'll come a time where they'll earn respect from the rest of these New Zealand teams, or these other 5 New Zealand teams. But I'll tell you what, I think for the guys who ran out for the Crusaders, they certainly made them stand up and take notice, especially in the physicality stakes. I don't think they lacked anything in physicality, and I think that was part of the reasons why they stayed in the game so long, Paul. I think they met the Crusaders on the advantage line, hit them hard, and just slowed their ball down enough just to realign their defensive systems at the right time. And I think they'd earned respect at the end of the 80 minutes. It certainly came through when the likes of Scott Robertson was interviewed, and he looked a relieved man when the Crusaders picked up that bonus point try right on the 80th minute, because I think his mood wouldn't have been relieved. I think he would have been pretty peeved off, Paul, had they not
Yes.
picked up that bonus point, weak inside or not. But listen, to pay the Moana Pacifica a bit of due credit as well, it's fair to say there were a lot of guys in that Moana Pacifica team making their debuts at Super Rugby level as well. A lot of guys who you'd probably say are outside the best 180 players in New Zealand. That's after these sides are selected with their contracted players, their wider training squad players. And we all know that usually the best young Polynesian players are all locked up in academies all around the country. So, when you consider what they're picking from, listen, I don't think it was a bad sort of debut at all. Yeah, sure, it's probably highlighted some areas where they're going to struggle, especially up front. But the good thing for me, their scrum didn't disintegrate in the second half. If anything, it actually got better. And I think they might have actually even pulled the odd penalty, Paul.
Yeah, but they also, their scrum was going backwards in the first half. It definitely struggled. The line out was misfiring, and their kicking from hand was mixed. Irani was the exception there. His kicking from hand was brilliant, which is why you saw them. I think probably why you saw a lot of their exits were from his box kicking. Now, I've just been listening to Roberto Ball on SENZ, and he does a Moana Pacifica show just before this show. And they had a player on you saying, look, their exits were one of the areas that we have to work on, but also their set piece as well, clearly on those ones. He was also saying that he had JK on his Sunday show, and JK was saying that there were some question marks around the various scouts and stuff as to why weren't some of these players signed by the Super Rugby clubs. And it's like, well, we've been saying that for a while now.
Yep, that's what they need to tune in on a Monday night to the TDM, and we'll update them. And we've been doing this for the last 2-3 years, Paul. So they've totally missed the boat. We all know about those players that could have, would have, should have, and somebody like Lincoln McCutchie, you kind of look at his skill set when you compare him to Simon Hickey, and I mean this with the greatest respect, wow, what a skill set. And we know he's the sort of player that can open up any defence on his day. Nerai Formai out on the wing, we know he's a multi-skilled footballer. You know, some of the other lads in this team have really stood up, and I was really impressed with Henry Stowers. But we've seen Henry Stowers playing for Canterbury, I think it was. He had a season down there in the NPC, so we know that he is quality.
Yeah, it's, I think I interviewed him after a game at FMG Stadium last year as well during the NPC. So yeah, we know their qualities. We know they've got some good players in there, but we also know there are that most players haven't had the opportunity at this level before, and getting used to the intensity, the physicality, and the speed. The lack of time is going to be a big thing for them. But and just trying to get that platform. But we follow that up by another debutant team, Fijian Drua, playing the Rebels. Now, I had the Rebels down for this one. Now, Rebels have not started well this season, let's be blunt, but they have got way more experience at this level. And in the first couple of minutes, we saw the Rebels go over after 2 minutes to get their first score. Tamua making his kick from the sideline, and I'm thinking this is going to be the same old story with the Drua, unfortunately, and they were trailing 7-14 at half time, having also had a yellow card for repeat collapsing. So I thought this was this was only going one way and didn't really pay attention to the second half. But Stephen, they showed some real guts here, real character to come back in that second half. And let's be honest, sometimes Pacific Island sides, if things aren't going their way, if the whistle's going against them, they can lose their heads, and we've seen that in the first couple of rounds. But they kept their heads in this one and came back really well.
Oh, they did, Paul, and what makes this even more and more crazy, you talk about maybe a dysfunctional scrum with Moana Pacifica. We'll talk about a dysfunctional line-out. With the Fijian Drua, they struggled to win lineouts. In fact, they actually decided, you know what, we'll just throw it over the back and take our chances with the long throw. But the one upper hand that they did have in this game was, and once again, was at scrum time. They actually scrummed reasonably well the week before against an Australian front row when they played the Brumbies. And once again, boy, they actually showed some real power, and I thought they were consistently good in that particular area. So it just gave them enough of a platform. And in the second half, the other thing with that platform, they were able to get over the advantage line. And once they got in behind the Rebels, well, anything's possible.
Actually, what's pleasing about this is that, yes, they had breakaway tries involved, but the way they saw this game out was by gaining 3 penalties in the Rebels half and kicking all 3. And you're like, okay, this is a team that, yes, it's got the Fijian flair. We saw that, and it's got it in spades, as you'd expect. But they've also got some game management there. And look, they were missing their Kiwi fly half, who have just gone blank up out with Braden Kerr, so even without him there, it was good to see that game management for me closing out the game, and that to me was what was most impressive of this by the Drua. So great to see them have got a win. You've got to say their games against the Rebels and Moana Pacific are probably the games that they've got a chance of winning in. The rest of them they're going to find pretty tough. But yeah, well done to them, and in the manner of it in that second half. And Stephen's got to learn to turn off his mute.
Yeah,
it's great that one of the things we have not lost is Stephen's ability to talk into a microphone and not be heard.
Yeah, well, I'm actually just trying because I've got a neighbour. I've got a neighbour next door, and there's a few boys from Kelston Boys Training, and they decide they like loud music. So I just muted a wee bit. I was going to say one player who I thought the Drua would miss was their skipper Nagusa, who's been quite impressive in their first 2 games. But Meta, the open side flanker, boy, he stepped up big time. In fact, their Lucy's actually played really, really well, and got a lot of turnovers at breakdown, got over the advantage line. So yeah, it was great. It was one thing about it. It was a celebration of a Fijian style of rugby that they played in the second half, which got them back in the game. And then, of course, there was the discipline to kick 3 penalties at the end. Just goes to show that it was the Rebels that lost their discipline at the end of the day. And I agree with you, Paul. Sure, they're missing a few key guys like, Leota, Hodge, people like that. But you know what? They've been part of Super Rugby for a very, very long time. And when you're putting a roster together, I think it's important that you have a almost like a number 2 team if things go wrong injury wise.
Yeah, and that's going to be something we're going to talk about probably in the second set of games. But so we came off the back of that one, Western Force versus the Reds. Now I'll be honest, I didn't watch, neither of us watched this one, but I did catch up on the highlights for this one. And James O'Connor, I saw on the social media, was getting lots of props after this game, and boy, the highlights show you why. Taking it to the line, giving it to players, running into holes, really was running the show here with this one. The Reds picked up a yellow card, but during that time still managed to equal the points by the opposition, and then picked up a second yellow card, but still came through. So good performance by the Reds. Look, they definitely stuttered over the first couple of rounds, even though they were getting the results. Their performances haven't been there, but looks like things are starting to click for the Reds. And boy, oh boy, do they need it to happen. But looks heading in the right direction.
Yeah, listen, this game got pretty close for a while there, Paul. In fact, the Force got themselves back into when Strawn, the fullback, kicked the penalty. They got back to, I think it was 2016, and it wasn't really until the Reds scored a couple of late tries through Flock and McRae that they really put the game beyond doubt. And of course, the Force, though, had their opportunities in the game between that third quarter, didn't quite nail it. But I suppose if there's a couple of lessons for any players running around in Super Rugby in Australia to learn, you don't run up Hunter Paisami's channel, as Mataele found when he made a break from just outside his own goal line. It was a heck of a break, but he got stopped dead in his tracks about 40 odd metres out. And originally I thought, gee, this could be a card. But when they looked at the tackle again, boy, it was just a good tackle. Paisami doing everything right, getting a shoulder, getting a right shoulder in there, doing enough to wrap the arms, lifting the player but putting him down safely.
Well, to my mind, he did everything right except he put his arm between the guy's legs, right? If you're going to grasp around there, when you sort of lift to put them on the floor, you're going to tip them. And that was where his problem was. If he had that round the waist rather than under between the legs, or even just round the legs, he probably would have been okay. But because that's where his arm was, that meant he tipped him, went beyond the horizontal. No, he landed on his side. It wasn't a dangerous one, but they're trying to eliminate that entirely from the game. So hence, it's unfortunate, but he just very, very slightly got his technique wrong with where the arm went, and that was it.
Yeah, I just wonder sometimes if slow motion makes it look a lot worse than what it was. You know, I always look at how the player who's received the tackle is at the time, and Mataele, he got up, and credit to him, he didn't stay down. But at the end of the day, that's probably in the hands of the officials, and I think that's going to be the theme tonight, Paul. We probably don't want to get stuck too much into the officials.
No, you're right. It probably did look worse because it was in slow mo. But the thing he got wrong was that height, getting that arm between the legs, and that was a technique issue. Otherwise, apart from that, it would have been perfect. It was to stop a player in his tracks who's shifting like that. Mataele is not a small player. Very, very, very well tackled. So, look, Force heading in the right direction compared to last year, absolutely. But up against the Australian champions, and unsurprisingly, they didn't quite have enough in the tank for that one. On to Saturday, and talking about having enough in the tank. Boy, the Blues just dragged themselves over the line for a win at Eden Park. I had the Chiefs down for this one, but because I thought, especially the way that the Blues sort of succumbed to the Hurricanes in the previous week. But look, they managed it this time. It's for me, it's great to see Caleb Clark back to back playing well after pretty much a lost year last year with his whole sevens thing in the Olympics. But yeah, he's having a cracking start to the season, isn't he?
Yeah, and you know what? He looked like the player that first really burst on the scene a couple of seasons back as well. You know, it just seemed to be a renewed vigor about him. Really, really good in the air. A couple of really spectacular catches as well from Caleb Clark. But I suppose for the Blues in that first half, there were a lot of visits to the Chiefs' red zone and not much to show, where the other way around, not many visits to the Blues, not many opportunities for the Chiefs, but everyone nailed.
Yeah, absolutely. And this was I think it's been a bit of a theme for this year about and I've seen it also in Six Nations, is about teams being dominant but not getting points. We've seen that a few times, and quite often it comes back to hurt you. But this time was one of the rare occasions where they got away with it a little bit. Brad Weber, his 100th game, did really well, and as Arthur pointed out on our chat, another player reaching his 100th game and not winning the game. It seems to be perhaps emotionally takes a lot out of teams. Perhaps it's a bit of a distraction for them rather than being the motivator that you would hope it would be. But they didn't manage to do it. Another player that I'm going to talk about is Soakula for the Chiefs. Had a couple of shockers early on with drop balls, but then Sam Cane had a chat with him behind the posts, and from then on he didn't make another mistake. Had a cracking game, and it really has started this season really, really well. I was asked to submit post-match questions by Chiefs media, and I asked them to ask Sam Cane what he said. Unfortunately, that wasn't asked during the post-match interview. I've got a recording of it, folks, but I don't think anything was said on it that was particularly worth me putting it out there. So I've not made it available to supporters of New Zealand Sport Radio because they were pretty bland answers. But if you become a supporter over at patreon.com/NZ where I get video clips of coaches or players saying something that's interesting, I'll put it on there for supporters. So do go over there and support us on the channel if you can. And I guess the other one was Sam Cane up against Papali'i, with a lot of people giving Sam Cane the points decision in that one.
Oh, listen, I don't disagree with yourself and the pundits that have said that it was a really good, intriguing contest. Both of them with high standards, but Sam Cane, he still has that ability to get those real key turnovers. Just seems to get the almost McCaw-like, just get his timing accurate. If you see Sam Cane, he doesn't always give away a lot of penalties at breakdown, and it just shows he's pretty much in tune with that particular area of the game. So, like, for me, I really, really enjoyed that contest.
Yeah, one of the things actually, interestingly, when you talk about Sam Cane at the breakdown and you say penalties, is that one of the things he said pre-season was actually getting used to the referees around how they're going to be officiating things. And remember, folks, there's been referees in camp with these teams. It wasn't down in Queenstown, but prior to that there were. So perhaps he learned a thing or two going into the season, which has helped him stay on the right side of the law on that one. There. RTS, again, I guess RTS watch is going to keep on happening. They had a fine game, but in that one, and I don't think, Bowden Barrett's back now. A bit concerning to hear him say a couple of weeks ago that he was concerned as to whether he would actually have to retire from rugby due to the head knock he had. So good to see him back. And look, anybody who thinks that the game is going soft or that the game's being ruined by lowering of tackle heights, you need to, when you got someone like Bowden Barrett saying, I was thinking about retiring, yeah, oh boy, you need to realize this game has not gone soft in any way, shape or form. we do need to look after players in this one.
Ironically, Paul, a couple of players returning from head knocks, Tom Robinson as well, and you've got to say, probably both players a little bit below par. Although I will say, Bowden Barrett, once he pretty much got past his few jittery nerves or whatever they were, he made a few early mistakes when he came on. He did show that he offers better structure in terms of the Blues attack, and that was shown with that brilliant try to Mark Talia. But I thought a couple of guys in the Blues teams that actually stood out. I thought Stephen Perifeta was very good value. Yep. Kurt Eklund, very good. Mm-hmm. I thought Finley Christie, when he was on there, was strong. Another solid game from Josh Goodhue. I know didn't stand out as much as he did in the game against, or the previous week against the Hurricanes, but he's just got such a good work rate. Makes a lot of tackles, but there's a lot of credit to the Chiefs for meeting the Blues. They didn't let them dominate the gain line. They actually stopped them behind the gain line, and I just suspect at times the ball, especially in the first half of the Blues, whilst they had a lot of ball, I don't know if it was as clean and as accurate along the back line as it could have been.
Yeah, it's interesting listening to Razor on SENZ Radio with Roberto, where he mentioned the difference between kind of the Blues and the Chiefs is the Blues are more structured, and the Chiefs are more physical and perhaps less structured. So, if they've not got a fly half who can pull that structure, then I think the Blues are in a bit of trouble. There was a bit of a joke on. I was listening to a podcast. What a lad with. I've gone blank. Richard Mwanga, another player who came back this week, but he was like, it's probably good that they've got RTS at 12 and not Rico, as I don't think RTS would have received the ball much if he was at 13 outside of Rico, which is like, ooh, to come from one of his own teammates, kind of thing, talking about his passing. Ouch.
Well, we've seen a couple of examples in the last couple of weeks. A week ago against the don't want to dig it up, but against the Hurricanes down in Dunedin, he had Mark Talia outside him, and he didn't pass, and Talia could have walked it in. And then we saw an opportunity from really, really, really quick ball, and he basically it was quick hands, but you could just see the position of the way he flicked the ball. His fingers were pointed up, and of course the pass went high to it may have been Talia on the outside, but there was a good opportunity there. But it really needed total soft hands, Paul. Just a little movement, soft hands. But I noticed his finger. I looked at it again. His fingertips were up. Not that I ever played centre, folks. And it was just because he stuck his fingers up, the wrists were up, which meant the pass was high. So the opportunity was missed. So, those are areas of his game that he probably really, really needs to get right if he really wants that number 13 jersey in the All Blacks.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think talking a bit of side on All Blacks is that we just look at those outside backs now where you've obviously got Sever Reece, who's still scoring tries, Will Jordan and Lester Fainu-Kanuku down the Crusaders. You've got Geordie Barrett, who seems to have nailed on that 15 jersey down at the Hurricanes, and also Rayasi down there, who's scoring tries for fun. Caleb Clark coming back into it. Talia playing decently when he gets the ball. And also Rico Iwani. So, I mean, and of course, George Bridge as well, who Razor admitted he has something to prove after last season down at the Crusaders as well. So, there's a lot of competition for those back three places. And as you say, at the moment, it looks like Rico is definitely a winger at international level. He's not a 13 at the moment. It's just his distribution skills just isn't there.
Yeah, and Paul, a lot of heat coming from a lot of other wingers, of course, in the same game. We're starting to see the potential of Etienne Nanaisitoro again. Beautiful step that left Tom Robertson and no man's land shot through the middle. We're starting to see his class. Also Rayasi, who we'll probably talk about in the next game. So there's a few wingers out there that are just starting starting to put their hands up and hopefully put some pressure on the incumbents.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So well done to the Blues. Just hanging on there. There was a penalty at the death that Gatland missed. Good to see Alcoy was the first player there, putting his arm around his shoulder to obviously to console him on that one. So it's quite often the kicker gets the blame, but as Clay McMillan said in the post match, they've done enough to win this game, but they didn't put the points. They didn't take the opportunities when they should have done.
Well, Paul, I've got a confession to make. I did pick the Chiefs by 1 to 12, and I stuck $80 on the Chiefs. $80. Yep, $80. So there was $320 sitting on that kick that went to the left of the post, and unfortunately, that's where it stayed to the left of the post. But I was lucky enough to make it up in the next game. I'll get it back.
Yes, so the next game, the Hurricanes versus the Highlanders. Hurricanes come out 21-14. But this is, I think, I put it on our internal chat. This is possibly the worst game of rugby I have seen, or Super Rugby, between two New Zealand sides. It was not very good at all. Now, when you realise that the Hurricanes were on their fifth choice hooker and fifth choice halfback, and their halfback drove down from Palmerston North to play the game that day, you kind of understand that the Hurricanes are, well, to say they've got a threadbare squad is putting it nicely. They really are scraping bottom of the barrel trying to find players.
Well, Paul, I'll tell you what. For me, something interesting. The first two shots at goal hit the posts.
Yes.
And if you jumped on the TAB option to hit a penalty to hit a goal post, first up was paying $18. So I kind of missed. I know, unbelievable. $18 to hit the post. See, it's not what you look at is not always the winning or the point spread, but just look at all the other crazy options that are in there. And I was fortunate enough to lump some money on Pody Rakati Stones as a try scorer, not so much a first try scorer, and he was paying I think it was $8, so I collected on that. So watch those quirky little options if you're looking through the TAB options. Not that I'm promoting the TAB here, but just give you an insight if you want to make some money. There are options there.
I think those odds were pretty short because let's be honest, he has never. That's his first ever try in Super Rugby, and he's played way more than 8 games. So I think those odds should have been longer than that. But hey, it is what it is.
Well, the TAB have actually got an option. Any forward 1 to 8 that scores the first 3 tries, there's money on them. That's how I basically picked up some money on Friday night's game as well. I had a forward as the first. You could either score the first, the second, or the third try, and boy, that for me that was easy money. I think I put that was paying $18 on Friday night at $5. So, boy, have a look at those odds. They're worth a look, but I could not find a first try scoring option, so I don't think the TAB had that option running for that particular game. But yeah, if he was probably a first try scorer, I'm picking he probably would have been at easily 20 plus.
Yeah, it was look, it wasn't a great game, as I say. Well, it was a very poor game. So I'm not sure what more we want to say about this one. I guess the only other thing to say about this is that the Hurricanes assistant coach has come out and said we have COVID in the environment. So you do wonder, will they be able to put a team out this weekend? And who are they playing this weekend? Well, Moana Pacifica, who have already missed 2 games. So it would be if it doesn't rain, it pours, as they say. Real shame therefore if Moana Pacifica have to miss a 3rd game. How they're going to catch those up, I've got no idea. 2 games you can just about feel it, but 3, wow, that would be a lot on that one. So a bit of a shame. Simon, yes, there is who's in the live chat just saying there is no golden point in regular season. Yes, there is. There is golden points in regular season this year for Super Rugby Pacific. It's not golden try, but it is golden point. Just to make that one, make that because obviously it was golden try in Super Rugby AU last year.
Paul, I was going to say, I wonder if that was a real disruption, the late withdrawal of Asafo Amua. Apparently in the training run before the game, and Miley came on and made his debut. But listen, it'd be remiss of us not to mention a couple of things. Ari Savia, wow. He was absolutely huge for the Hurricanes, and man, I'd almost say almost the difference, Paul, because he was just into everything. He got them over the gain line. He got turnovers at crucial times, and I thought he was probably the one player that was just consistently good in this particular game. And the other question I've got to ask myself,
before you go on, the other about Ice Fair, he was hobbling around at the end there. Really hope he's hasn't done anything serious and is okay going forward. So yeah, he's playing some fantastic rugby.
He's a big part of that team, but it also begs this question. You also always see this great impact off the bench from Braden Yosse. Is he a perennial off the bench player, or do you think he's the sort of player that should be given an opportunity in the 8 jersey, Paul?
I think, look, you hear this term now. It's a squad game. It's not a first 15 game. So yes, players would like to be first choice, but I think there's also and especially you've seen this now with both South Africa and France having 6-2 benches, is that there is very much a bench bench roles, and if you can nail that properly, I think players now, a bit like being the best sixth man in basketball, being the best bench player probably can get you make a good career out of that, being able to make a big impact off the bench and change games. So I wouldn't be up to, and it means you have to play less minutes. So I wouldn't be too upset if I was him, if I could nail that down as being a specialist bench player.
Yeah. Yep. Now the other question I wouldn't mind asking as well is just in and around the selection of the halfback, Folau Fakatava. I just can't help feel that you should still be starting with your best halfback. I know they had to give him a run at some time, but I would have given him a run against Moana Pacifica or maybe the second half, because I couldn't help feel it was so important to have Aaron Smith starting that game, because you can see the difference that he did make when he came on in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, especially after 2 losses as well. So the Highlanders now haven't got a win yet. They've got the Blues coming up, then Moana Pacifica. Now, when they signed Fakatava, I thought great, because one of the issues that Aaron Smith has had in recent years is that he's been playing 80 minutes for quite a lot of games. Now, he's not the youngest boy around. He's getting towards the end of his career, let's be honest, or in the latter third at least. So I actually quite liked this. I thought it was a fantastic signing. I mean, he didn't have to play as many minutes every year as he has been. So from that point of view, if you're thinking for the Highlanders, yes, he has to start. If you think about the All Blacks trying to win the next Rugby World Cup, no, it's a perfect decision. So it comes down to, I guess, what are you wanting from what's more important? Look, Fakatava's coming back from injury. We know that Dane McKenzie took nearly a season to come back. So his 2020 wasn't great after that injury that he had, long injury, but his 2021 was fantastic. So look, it can take players time to come back from injury. So look, he needs game time to get over that, to get back up to speed. I guess the problem is that, yes, it's hurting the Highlanders currently with results, but it's good for the players. And I guess what is Super Rugby for? Is it about providing players for the All Blacks, or is it about trying to win? If it's trying to win, it was the wrong decision. Players for the All Blacks, perfect. So what is Super Rugby for? And Steve, for those of you listening to the podcast, watching the video, Stephen is shrugging his shoulders at that point, going, I don't know. So I get your point on that one. We finish things up then with the Brumbies versus the Waratahs. The Waratahs probably the most improved team this season, I would say. And whilst I don't think they're going to get anywhere near winning it, the team that have impressed me most with what they've managed to do, considering where I thought they would be. But still, as expected, the Brumbies came through 20-7. Look, they are the them and the Reds are ahead of the other teams in Australia. A much more structured team who can put away a young, growing side that is Waratahs. So not surprised by that one. And I've forgotten. I've watched the game live, but I've forgotten what happened. So I can't really say much more than that.
Yeah, there was. It was a game where at one part I looked at it, and there was one stage the Brumbies were leading 24-6, and if this had been a year ago, it probably would have been 48-6. But like you say, credit to this Waratahs side. They are better. They look reasonably good in the loose forwards. I really do like the way their loose forward trio of Gamble, Harris, and Sinclair work together. I mean, it's like Charlie Gamble is originally a Christchurch lad, played for the Canterbury under-19 team. They won the title about 4 seasons ago, I think it was, and was destined for bigger things, and then disappeared off the face of the earth. And blow me down, he was playing shoot shield in Sydney, and he makes the Waratahs side, and he looks like he's just getting better and better. And Harris, no relation, by the way, who's the number 8, big, tall, rangy number 8, looks a really, really good prospect as well. But we also know the threat of their midfielders, Foketi and Peresi. Peresi can basically open up any sort of defences. It kind of reminds me of Malakai Fekatoa, the way he runs, but I think they just left themselves far too much to do, even though you could arguably say the last 15 minutes of this game, they actually dominated, but just at key moments, the Brumbies managed to get real key turnovers. And I thought for the Brumbies on the night, Rob Valentini, very, very good with ball in hand, and just a damn nuisance at breakdown.
And yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to agree with Simon here that I think Waratahs finish 8th. Yep, I think they are the best of the rest in because there is a big fight for that sort of 8th position. So I think they will get in there. Now, let's quickly look forward and do our Super Rugby predictions for next weekend before we do the ladies and the Six Nations. Blues up versus the Highlanders. Look at the Blues. I think I'm going to win this one. Highlanders have been a bit poor, but I'm going to go Blues by 7 again. I think I'm just not sure they've got the stamina to keep away and finish off a big score. I think they'll probably get to a lead bigger than 7, and the Highlanders will probably come back a bit, but not have enough in the end. Yeah,
I think there'll be a sense of relief by Leon McDonald and his coaching staff after that game on the weekend. That I think they'd almost kind of treated almost like a loss, even though it wasn't. And I think they really want to go out and probably on this occasion nail the opportunities that they missed out on last Saturday. So I'm picking the Blues. I'm going to go big, 12 and over.
Wow. Rebels then host the Brumbies. Now, the Brumbies beat the Drua by 39 points. The Drua have just beaten the Rebels. Now, so I'm going to go Brumbies by 20. A, it's away. And B, I think they might rotate a few players for this one against the Rebels. So, yeah, I'm Brumbies by 20.
Yeah, that's you can take that one to the bank, Paul. Your $1 will be very safe. In fact, I'd probably put $5 on it, mate. Splash out a wee bit, mate, at TAB. You never know. You might catch them early, and they might be paying $1.50, $1.30 maybe.
We've then got another midnight game with Western Force over in Perth. This time they are hosting the Waratahs. I'm finding this one a hard one to call because the Force at home are going well. The Tars have impressed with that 30-point win over the Drua, gone close with both the Reds and the Brumbies, but I'm still going to go Western Force by 3 because they're at home. But this one I think can go either way.
Oh, listen, I'm going to go for the Force. We spoke about improved teams. I know the Waratahs are an improved team, but I think the Western Force are a real improved team as well. You know, you think back to that very first game against the Brumbies, and it took a late try for the Brumbies to get over the Force. So I think the Force will bounce back. Oh, no, beg your pardon. Sorry, this is being played at in Sydney. No, I'll go the other way.
No, it's in Perth.
Yep.
No, it's in Perth, this one. It's a midnight game in Perth.
Oh, well, I've got Leichhardt Oval in Sydney.
Oh. Geez, I'm not sure which one is true. Is Super Brew correct, or is Triumph Sports app correct? It's a difficult one.
Well,
I would go, the home team by 3, whichever one's home.
Yep, I'm with you there, Paul.
We then go. We've got to then the Hurricanes hosting Moana Pacifica. If this one goes ahead, because I say the Hurricanes might not be able to put a team together for this one. Having seen Moana Pacifica go so well against the Crusaders, knowing that the Hurricanes are going to be down so many players, I'm still going to pick the Canes, but only by 7. Normally, I would have gone Canes by like 15, 20. But because I think they're going to, because I don't know what side the Hurricanes are going to be able to put out, I'm going to close. I'm closing that one right down.
I'd be disappointed if the Canes didn't put a side out. I'm pretty sure they should have enough depth to cover it. On saying that, what were they down to their 5th halfback, Logan Henry, who drove down from Palmerston? Also, that was pretty crazy, I've got to say. And good luck to him on his debut and picking up a meat pie. Yeah, the Hurricanes, to me, I'm thinking 12 points. 12 plus would be a safe bet.
Then we've got the Crusaders versus the Chiefs. I think we'll see a very different Crusaders team this week than we saw last week. Richard Mo'unga apparently will be playing this game. Whether we're starting or not, we'll have to wait and see. But look, the Crusaders at home, they're in good form. I'm putting the Crusaders by 10.
Ooh. Boy, this is mouth-watering, Paul. It really is. I'm going to go Crusaders, but I reckon it'll be under 7.
There we go. Crusaders by a score from Stephen. And then we round the weekend off with the Reds versus the Drua. The Drua off the back of that win. Let's hope they haven't been partying too much and aren't too hungover come this game. But look, morale should be up for them. But look, they're up against the Aussie champions. They're not up against the Rebels this week. So I'm backing the Reds by 20.
Yeah, I'd have to go along with that. I think there's a big difference between the Reds and where the Rebels are at the moment. We know that the Reds are probably the team to watch from Australia, and I think they'll be too good.
Yep. Moving on then to the women's game. And Super Rugby Aupiki kicks off this Thursday. We had a warm-up game between the between the Chiefs and Mata'atu, the South Island team at the weekend, which the Chiefs came out on top with. Chelsea Alley not running around, so I think it's pretty clear that whilst I don't want to, we know that COVID is in pretty much all the camps to a greater or lesser degree. So I wouldn't be surprised if she is one of the players that is down with that. And I think it's clearly is a problem because the Hurricanes have had to pull out of their game against the Blues this Thursday. So only one game this weekend at FMG Stadium. I have applied for a media pass, so hopefully I'll be at this game between Chiefs Moana and Mata'atu. But look, I'm not sure how much you can take from a pre-season game. Again, I've got the post-match interviews with the head coach and Liz Elder recordings. Again, nothing there that I thought was massively said that I thought was really worth sort of sharing. But we need to improve our this. We need to improve that. Yada yada yada. I think look, the fact that this is actually happening is great. The fact that we've already lost the finals, we're only going to get 5 games, says that this is a very small step forward in the end. With this, with Hurricanes saying that they've got COVID in the camp, you do wonder to a certain degree, did Super Rugby come out of its bubbles in Queenstown too early? Now, the government's regulations allow people into grounds now. You're only you only have to isolate if you're a close household contact, so there's less isolations, etc. But there's 17,000 people getting COVID this week, today or yesterday or whenever it was. So look, there's a lot more of it on the community. So it's a swings and roundabouts thing there with this one. It's a real shame that COVID is disrupting this, but I can't see how they're going to stretch it beyond this. The majority of the girls or ladies, playing in this competition have got real day jobs to go back to. They can't take another 2-3 weeks off work to play some more games. Hence why they've already cut off games. They're starting, I think it feels like a week late now than they were planning to. It's just all unfortunately gone south for them.
Yeah, and it's probably another thorn in the side for the Black Ferns coaching staff as well, Paul, because they want to, now that we're highlighting the women's game, they probably want to see a lot of these women running around at another level. I had a quick look at the game between the Manawa and Matatu on Saturday, the preseason game that was played in Taupo. It was, once again, there was some good running football, but I kind of envisaged some of these players at another international level, Paul, because usually when you have got good internationals running around, they tend to stand out. Probably in the last set of shoes I'd want to be in as the Black Ferns coaches at the moment, Paul. There is a lot of work to do in that particular space.
Yeah, and with how do you go about it? I think the only way you can probably go about this properly is to basically give out something like 60 contracts and have a North versus South Island series and have them basically in camp for the next 6 months to turn things around ahead of the Rugby World Cup, because otherwise I think they are going to struggle against England and France. To be honest with you. So, that to me is about the only way to do it. Let's be honest, there's not a lot of cash to throw around to do something like that in New Zealand rugby at the moment. I'm not sure there ever has been. But to me, that is probably about the only way they could actually the Black Ferns coaches are in with a realistic shout, to be honest. Real shame that we've lost. We've lost a whole bunch of preseason games, and we've lost 3 competitive games already from this whole thing. It's getting smaller and smaller. At least it's happening, folks, at the moment. Touch wood. And I think that's all we can really say about that. As I say, I hope to be at the game, so look out for my post-match reactions to those, post-match interviews with players and coaches to those, and we'll give it the normal New Zealand Sport Radio coverage that we try and do to these games, just like we do for NPC and Super Rugby as well. Finally, then, Six Nations this weekend, Stephen.
Yep.
France have been taking this by storm. Let's be honest. And next in the firing line is Wales. Oh dear.
Yeah, it's at the Millennium Stadium, but the way this French team has been playing, I mean, so that was an improved performance against England, Wales, but it was a case of too little, too late at the end of the day, and England were the deserved winners. On saying that, Wales could be doing the other 4 teams a whole lot, well, maybe not so much Italy, but 3 of the teams a huge favour if they can upset the tricolour. I just can't see it, Paul.
No, neither can I. Wales have they've got their win over Scotland. They'll have another. They've got a good chance against Italy, but let's be honest. I had them down as 5th at the beginning of this tournament, and looks like they might be able to sink themselves up to 4th. But that's probably about as good as it's going to get for them. Actually, points difference, maybe England, actually, thinking about it, and we'll see how that, because England have got a tough run-in to finish off with. But yeah, that's France all day long. Italy then hosts Scotland. And I was listening to a podcast today with someone who follows about Italian rugby. And the real problem here is that Italy have just got the 2 games that they can be most competitive in, Scotland and Wales, as the last 2 games. And they've already lost a whole bunch of players to injury. So getting through their first 3 games, they looked much better against France. I've not seen their other 2 games, to be honest with you. So You've got to say Scotland should come into this one as favourites, even though it is in Rome. But Italy, as I say, they're unfortunately by this stage, the games that they could do best in, they've just not got their best foot forward. But there might be a good reason to watch this game, folks, in that it might be Sergio Parese's final game for Italy. That game that he's been trying to play since the Rugby World Cup, when Italy against New Zealand was called off. That was going to be his swan song game. But since then, he's been trying to get a full house in Rome to say goodbye to the fans, and he may get a run out in this. Clearly, well past his best, but a fitting send off for a guy who has been such a great player for Italy.
Oh, listen, Sergio Parisi would be a guy if he was playing rugby for any other international country. I think he'd probably walk into most teams as an international number 8. Got the perfect international size. What is he? 6'4", 6'5", multi-skilled player. It's just unfortunate. He's been with Italy, but let's not take that away from him. Wow, what a stellar career! And if Italy are to move forward as a reputable international team in the future, they can kind of look back to moments like this, guys like Sergio Parisi, who laid the foundations.
Yep. Or maybe also more towards people like Conor O'Shea, who put the age group structures in place. But that's another matter. Finally, then, England versus Ireland. It should be the game of the round. Let's be honest. England dominated possession territory against Wales for periods, but couldn't find that cutting edge to really score the tries that they should have done with that level of of pressure. Ireland going to Twickenham. It's a tough job for them, but they are clearly the second best team in this competition. Obviously beating the All Blacks last November, tough job for both teams in this one. Hard to pick, but I mean Ireland are the better side, even though I've got my England jersey hanging over there. Yeah,
Paul, it's a game where I think whoever loses this game is pretty much out of contention. Opportunity is gone. I think Ireland is sitting on about maybe 12 points or 11 points. England sitting on 10. So, in effect, whoever loses is pretty much gone. And for England, they've got in their very last game, they've got to travel to Paris to play France in that last round game. So tough for them. Where Ireland have a home game against Scotland. So once again, France win this weekend. Boy, they're in pretty much pole position. I'm just trying to find a points table, Paul. You might have one. I could get one, but look, at the end of the day, the Six Nations is all about Grand Slams. It's not so much about points. I think we'll see France beat Ireland, beat Wales, and then beat England to get that Grand Slam. And boy, oh boy, after beating New Zealand in November, we can really see the DuPonts and Tamacs coming of age and thinking and building very well towards the 2023 Rugby World Cup, basically. So, boy, they're going to be hard to stop in that one. Oh, listen, Paul. I think people should just tune into the TDM. We predicted this 2 or 3 years ago when this French team won back-to-back World Junior titles, and credit to is it Fabien Gaultier, the coach? Is he? Yep. He's actually had the guts to actually bring these guys through. And it's just pretty amazing. And isn't he? I was going to say, isn't he a stalwart of the Thames Valley Rugby Union, or didn't he coach came over and did a season or so?
Oh, he might have. I'm not sure. I need to look into that. But what I would say is that again, it's through that 20. It's a bit like the England players like your Watson, Nowell, Luke Cowan-Dickey, Slade, who all came through as under-20s winners. You've then. So England won it for a couple of years. Itoje was a captain of an England under-20s winning team, and then you've seen France have gone and done that, and again, but have managed to put the players through more as a squad, whereas England's got individual players through, and just trying to keep them fit has been a nightmare. Italy beat England in the under-20s at the in the under-26 Nations the other weekend. So look, Italy have got things coming through, and we'll see that. I think add to them. Finally, then Simon talks about Super W, which has kicked off in Australia. So this is Australia's version of Super Rugby Aupaki, except they've been doing it for a number of years now. This, I think, is the 5th year of the tournament. The Western Force lost the Reds 7-43. The Rebels got beaten by Fijian Drua 5-66. See, Australia are doing it properly. They've got the Fijian Drua in straight away. Why do we not have a Moana Pacifica women's team in Super Rugby Aupaki? And then finally, the Brumbies lost the Waratahs 17-31. So, and they have a 5-round competition followed by playoffs as well. So, so yeah, you've got to say that look, Australia, clearly the Wallaroos have been behind the Black Ferns, but look, you can see they are the Australia Rugby or Rugby Australia, sorry, isn't it? Are trying to put things in place for them to be successful going forwards, and doing it perhaps in a, well, maybe there isn't the money behind it, maybe they don't have the contracts, but at least giving the girls more opportunities over there. Thank you, Stephen. Have we missed anything we want to talk about? I think we've covered off on all the rugby that was played and the key rugby that's going to be played this next weekend.
Well, the good thing about it, Paul, you've still got your voice. You didn't have to talk for a whole hour, so that was a good thing. And listen, we got through just on pretty much an hour. So how's that for timing?
We have, and I've got a supporter special coming out probably over the next couple of days, where I'm going to talk about when sports washing comes back to bite. With the invasion by Russia, of Ukraine, we've seen a number of sporting organisations having very quickly getting rid of sponsors, and in the case of Formula One, even getting rid of drivers in response to that, which kind of shows you the bad, well, basically what sports washing is about. It's trying to prove that these, in Russia's case, there is Russia lost the Champions League final, which is obviously the football thing. And it just shows that they're trying to use sport to portray themselves as well, basically normal countries, and which clearly Russia isn't. Now, at the other end of sports washing, you've got things like Al Trad and Ineos sponsoring the All Blacks. So, will that come back to bite the All Blacks? Clearly, we're not going to have Al Trad invading another country. But you've got to say, look, when you take on these sponsorships, you do take on other things as well. So something I'm going to try and do a sports special and talk about. Clearly, it's a very minor thing in the scale of Russia invading Ukraine and the deaths that are happening around that. The civilians who are also caught in the crossfire as well, and all the other things that are going on there. But we are a sports channel. We do talk about sport, and so hence I thought I'd talk about the sport impact to a certain degree, or the rugby impact to a certain degree of that. So look out for that over the next couple of days. Thank you very much, Stephen. And catch us all next week at 8 p.m, folks, for the DrivingMaul show. And also at Wednesday at 8 p.m. for the standoff show, where you'll get your NRL Eve fix as that competition just kicks off.